Hello, Yolanda.
Hi, Sherry.
It is so good to chat with you. And you are my only guest so far where we go way back to, we both have summer camp background, summer camp experience.
Yeah, it's been a long time and so interesting that you said we actually never met in person before, but I feel like I've known you for a really long time.
Yeah, ditto. And we have had the old school telephone
Yeah.
calls when people
Yeah.
did the pre-Zoom days.
Yeah. So we do go way back, right?
You go way back, and I was telling you how much I enjoy your post on social media, especially LinkedIn. So yeah, I feel like I know your girlfriend. Like we're just picking up from last time.
We are. We are.
So the fact that you have run and your husband a summer camp for kids,
Mm.
you probably know a lot about kids and how they think, how they feel, what goes on in their head.
I would say I would say so for sure. And I think over the course of now 17 years, I have taught kids from babies, like weeks old, all the way to 18. And I've taught probably no, I don't know, I never really did count, but definitely a couple of thousand kids by now, through being a high school teacher to running my Mandarin school, through my nonprofit, Girls Strong. Yeah, so I definitely have met a lot of kids, a lot of teens, and a lot of parents along the way.
Which can be a blessing and a curse, if I'm really
Definitely a
honest.
mix, yeah.
I was telling you just before we hit record how I meet these wonderful parents every summer when I'm running Codezilla camp, and then the weekends or the whole summer ends and I don't see them again. So this is my chance to have riveting conversations with smart people. But sometimes the parents I
And
would
why
meet,
did you invite me?
I know, come on. It's funny because one thing I've realized, I don't have the long legacy that you do working with kids. I volunteered for many, probably over a decade. But one thing I've realized is just when I think I know what the youth are all about, they keep me on my toes. They flip the script.
Mm,
And one thing I've definitely noticed at our camp locations, really there's more awareness both from the kids as well as the parents about mental health and
mm.
how their child is like it's not just childcare or daycare. It is really about their child's welfare, both physical and mental. Have you seen that? And tell me more about your experience there.
Oh yeah, 100%. I feel like parents now are so much more aware and educated about the importance of supporting the whole child and not just about achievement, grades, and so on. Recently, I actually did a talk at St. Clement's, which is an all-girls school in Toronto. And my nonprofit, Girls Strong, partners with Plan International. So it was about 500 girls from grade 1 to grade 12. And they really taught me a lot about how early body confidence and self-esteem issues are hitting the kids. And I think as a parent myself with a daughter who's 13, I didn't realize that even as young as 6 years old, kids are now starting to notice things in the mirror that they don't like. Because my first question for these 500 kids, I said, hey, raise your hand if you've ever looked in the mirror and found something about what you see that you didn't like. And I was full on expecting the older girls to raise their hands because teens, they're very, very critical, right? Self-conscious. But I was so shocked that the little girls who were sitting, you know, right in front of me, so many of them had their hands up. And I had to take a pause, during the assembly. I said, I am sad. I am sad how many little hands went up. And there were about 70 or so teachers in the assembly. And of course, a lot of them raised their hands too. And and I think we just took a collective breath to notice that, and I think, yeah, that concept of mental health, I mean, self-esteem, body confidence, especially for girls, hugely impact our mental health. And I'm glad that, more and more parents are aware, but I think what they may not be aware of is how young it's hitting our children now.
Oh, I'm shocked that you said children as young, girls as young as 6 were
Yeah,
raising
grade
their.
one. Yeah, they're grade ones.
Oh, Yolanda, why do you think that's happening?
So we did, the group did a lot of great work before I actually went to do this live assembly, and they did talk a lot about why. Why is this happening? And mostly the answers that I received were from the older girls. So I don't know exactly why it's hitting the younger girls so early, but the older girls said social media, it's a huge culprit for why they are now comparing and why the appearance ideals that they are living with is so prevalent. And Dove, so as one of the funding partners for this program called The Power Within is from Dove's self-esteem project. And they did a
Yes.
research of thousands of kids, and they found that usually by age 8, girls will have stopped one or more activities that they used to enjoy because of the way they feel they look when compared to their peers. So I think comparison is like really, really important part of why girls, especially girls, I'm not saying that boys are not being affected, of course, all kids are, but the statistics right now is more about girls saying um, being affected because of comparison, because of social media.
Oh, um, so, I'm always full disclosure, I have a STEM and coding camp, so technology is the bedrock of why we exist. But I think of it as a tool to create, to entertain, to inform, but it can also be used to self-internalize negatively. So it really is a love-hate relationship we have with this ubiquitous technology. Like I'm able to connect with you because of technology. It can also work the other way where invariably we're making comparisons. What do we do? I don't even I have two daughters like yourself. Mine are a little bit older. My youngest is 14.
Mm,
My eldest just started first year university. What do we do? How do we? Because I remember thinking it was only happening to me when I was growing up, and I'm the
mm,
pre-social media age. And I genuinely thought it'd be different for my daughters. I don't know
mm,
why I thought it would be better.
right.
Maybe I'm hearing it's not. Like, what do we do as parents to support this?
Yeah, I know. And I think you have more experience than many because you have two girls, and they're, different ages and you've seen them through different stages of life. I think that the there's not just one magic bullet, right, for parents to say, oh, if I could just tell you to do this, then everything will be fine. Because if I did, then I would have probably retired by now. Um, but I think a really, really big thing that parents need to know is to gain awareness, to not just be aware of the issues that are happening external to the family, right, in schools and social media, like for parents to be aware. But I also think parents need to look within themselves and actually be aware of their own relationship with body confidence and self-esteem,
Yes.
because that really gets translated. Kids are so observant, especially younger kids. Teenagers, they might just want to do the opposite, but I think parents of younger kids, which both of our programs tend to serve more of, that parents really need to be aware of their own language about themselves. How are they describing their own bodies? How are they describing their own appearances? And where is that relationship being modeled or mirrored, right, in the family? I think that's really important. And parents hate hearing that. Like a lot of parents that I work with,
Yep.
and I say, you need to look within, they really don't like that. They really want to send their kids, I'm training to be a psychotherapist myself right now. And I know often parents would say, well, can you just fix this? Can you just like do this program and just like fix this? Um, yes, there are things for sure that I can do as a program director, as a therapist, as a coach, whatever. But I'm only with them a couple of hours a week maximum. But they are with their parents all the time outside of school, right? So I think that would be my biggest advice, is just awareness.
Awareness, and I hear you about role modeling. Um, and because I'm one of those geeky alpha moms, I have read the parenting books and I think more conscientious
Mm,
about what to mirror for my daughters. But then also growing up, I was very perceptive and I would really, maybe because I was always the outsider looking in, no matter where I lived, whatever country or time zone, I was always an oddball within my school or my neighborhood. So I became really adept at observing other people. And I would notice um, the classmate whose mother was really strict because she was a hardcore gymnast. And her mom was like really wanted her to go all the way. And her mom had a very militant diet. You can't have junk food. You can't go trick or treating. So of course, the exact opposite happened when the mother wasn't around. She just binged on all this. Back then it was 7-Eleven. Now it would be like Starbucks in Italy. But
mm,
I have still heard similar stories from my daughters, like
mm.
40 years later, the same type of story where the mother is trying to implement the diet or the appearance, and it's backfiring. And kind of broke my heart to think this is still happening, like 40 or 50 years in. Wow.
I mean, I would think that it's actually happening even more
Mm,
because we're just talking about the pressures for young girls to look a certain way. We haven't even touched on the pressures of women. I'm 45, so there are people that I know who are injecting things, cutting things now. I'm fortunately very scared of needles, and my fear of needles is far greater than my vanity. So that's also why nothing ever touched this face. Um, but the amount of pressure, and I'm not saying this to judge friends that have, done Botox or procedures. Everybody is on their own journeys and they're entitled to do whatever they want with their bodies. But I just want to acknowledge that the pressures to look a certain way, I think, is far greater now on women of all ages, especially women who are aging. I mean, we're all aging, but like, on the upper end of like the age spectrum, right?
Oh, I totally agree. I always self-describe myself as a middle-aged mom, and I love what's up here. I love the confidence and, just the unfiltered determination I have
Yeah.
that I didn't have in my 20s and 30s. Like, if there was one thing you wanted back then, and I'm probably thinking of my university students that I teach who I feel like they're baby chicks sometimes. They haven't quite come out of the shell.
Yeah.
So, Yolanda, it sounds like you're obviously driving deep into mental health for youth. What do you think is one of the biggest benefits we can do as parents of children to really help their mental health journey and make sure they feel grounded, loved, nurtured, and confident?
Yeah. So as you know, I live with bipolar disorder and I've lived with the condition for 25 years now. And when I had my daughter, that's when my condition really took a nosedive because of all the hormones. And I remember making a decision at that time that I need to change the narrative of mental health, at least in my family, like starting in my family. Because in my family of origin, the narrative around mental health is like, don't say anything, don't tell anyone, this is what makes you broken. This is going to alienate you. People are not going to support you. Like all of that. Even though my parents actually were both very, very supportive of me and helped me tremendously in my recovery journey, but they also instilled in me that it is not okay to share. So it's taken me a long time to be able to come out of the mental health closet and share as openly as I do. So I think if parents could look within themselves, and this is going to sound similar to my advice about body confidence and self-esteem, but I think they're all related, is if parents could look within themselves and notice their own relationship with mental health and any stigma that they carry, any shame that they are still um, grappling with, to notice those things so that they don't pass them on to their kids. And kids, again, are very, very observant. So any language that they use, any comments, any quirks that, parents will say about mental health, about other people's mental health, will form that narrative for their children.
Mhm.
So I think it's a hard job. I mean, nobody said parenting is an easy job. And I know what I'm sharing are all really hard things to do, but there are also the foundational things to do because there are no easy fixes when it comes to raising kids. And if you chose to be a parent, then that's unfortunately your goal. Like that's your job. You need to figure out how to do the hard stuff so
Yeah.
that your kids don't have to heal from your mistakes when they're older. I mean, I full on expect my daughter to be in therapy saying, I can't believe my mom did this. She said this. I'm okay with that. We're never perfect as parents. We're all going to make mistakes. But I think that awareness is really key in at least reducing the number of mistakes that we make.
100%. You can't heal what you have not yet acknowledged.
Yeah.
And we probably have the same family because both my parents come from, different cultures, yet the one consistent is thou shalt not share.
Yeah.
That like repression, repression.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, um, and it really, in all fairness, I could argue that both of their families or my grandparents on both sides had really tough lives. So you had to literally toughen up. There was no, if you wanted to survive the Canadian prairie winter, you had to toughen up, right?
Yeah.
Or, just I just feel like they did the best they could with the life skills they need at that moment in time, but it hasn't evolved for today's reality, and we're not all cookie cutters. So
Hmm.
thank you for sharing that because I have to also remind myself how I was raised may not always be wrong, but may not always be right or appropriate for what our kids are dealing with nowadays.
Yeah, for sure. And I think you're so right that our parents' generation had a whole other set of challenges. So their coping mechanisms are going to be very different than ours, just like our kids' generations are dealing with very different challenges than we are. And so I think because we are not battling harsh winters in the prairies, at least most of us are not. Um, some are still, of course, that we have the luxury of then looking at more than survival now, right? And that
Yes,
we can actually um, be investing in mental health. Whereas I think in our parents' generation, that's a luxury that they just did not have. And
totally.
and that's what they were dealing with, right?
Yeah, yeah, you're right. We are past the survival economy. Although for some young people and the job market, I think it probably feels pretty dismal. Um,
True.
and but I also really believe that um, I call it what you will, manifestation, law of attraction. I really believe at some point you have to really put out the confidence and work towards the goal. But I
Mhm.
also know at some point it's not just you and like think happy thoughts and think harder, think better. It really could be something that may need external support, may need some external medication or help in ways that were not prescribed generations ago.
Yeah.
Have you ever had a situation where you thought, wow, I really don't know what I would recommend for this child or this family? Have you come across that, whether in your master's studies or in all of your years as being a teacher or a camp owner?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I definitely have been stumped quite a few times with situations that I don't know immediately what is the best course of action or what I would recommend. And one comes to mind. Um, it's this one girl that actually was diagnosed with an eating disorder at age 8. And I just thought, wow, that is really, really young. And I can't even imagine what the parents have to go through to help. And I think because this was also fairly far from my own personal experience, I've never actually had experience with eating disorder before. It was just not in my wheelhouse.
Yeah.
And so I said, I really want to help. This was somebody in my Girl Strong program. And I said, I'm going to do some research. I'm going to find people in my network who know about this and educate myself. And I did. And I, obviously I still don't know all the answers, but I was able to connect them with people that would know more or organizations that are dedicated to supporting um, girls, youth who are dealing with eating disorders. And I feel like this example happens all the time in so many areas. Like I used to teach math and physics. So I was an engineer and left corporate and became a teacher. I mean, there are questions my students would ask me, let alone parents, but students would ask me. I'm like, I don't know. I'll go figure it out. But good question. And then the next day I'll like give them something or I'll be like, you go figure it out. You know what? Here are some resources. Um, but I think one constant thing that I feel I give to parents, students, whoever I work with may not be answers, but I feel like I give them a sense of possibility. I hold space for hope that things will get better and that it will be okay and that I'm there for them in whatever way I can be. And I think that may be my value add beyond knowing all the answers, which I don't.
Point well taken. No one does, and I also don't think it's your job to fix people. Like you said earlier on, you're only with that child for maybe a 2 hour
Yeah.
session. Um, but so you obviously have a love for learning and a passion for self-knowledge. But what led you into the mental health space for youth?
Mm. So I guess just like my career, it was a scenic route to get to this work. I started with adults when it came to doing mental health advocacy work, speaking. I was mainly speaking at corporations, organizations, charities, like all to adults. And of course, adults would get my message. Mm, but over time, I realized that I could make a huge impact speaking directly to the youth, to kids. And with my background as a high school teacher and running two kids programs, Panda Mandarin and Girl Strong, I also have a lot of connections with schools. I know you do as well. You run your program at so many schools. I've ran my program at many schools. So I think it was sort of just a natural progression that I just started to reach out to schools that already know me. Like for example, the next 2 weeks, I'm actually going to be presenting 13 different workshops at high schools. Um, about mental health, body confidence, self-esteem. And I'm even going to Port Perry to do another like series of workshops. So I think it was a natural progression. And you talked about manifestation and attraction. I feel like sometimes things, when they happen seemingly effortlessly, it's just kind of meant to be. Um, it was just the opportunities kind of came up and I thought yes, and then more people heard about my talks and they asked too, and then so me and my team are quite busy now, um, doing different talks, and it really fills my heart and it really like feeds my soul to do this kind of work. But I didn't plan it really. It was just something that kind of happened very organically, starting with, speaking to adults, and because of my media appearances, corporations would ask me to come and do a keynote or a talk or a presentation or a workshop. And then some of those people in the audience would have kids, and then they will ask me, "Oh, can you do this for my kids' school, or can you do this for, my kids?" And so yeah, so I feel like I'm just kind of letting that path be guided for me.
So I'm really humbled to hear that because I'm awed by the fact you are doing a master's. I think you're about to publish a book. So for someone who said it happened organically, you've also been working really hard and you literally have been, you know, you've been doing your reps in similar industries. They all have similar themes, whether it's youth or self-improvement through education or through mental health.
Mm.
So for someone who had it organic, that's not to be confused with you fell into it or it just happened overnight. You're actively working to make this vision come alive.
Yeah, well, thank you for saying that. I think to me it feels very like haphazard. Even
Okay.
when you share your feedback about my LinkedIn posts or social media posts and how you like them, I can tell you right now, there is no strategy behind that. It's just like I wake up and I'm like, oh, you know what? This happened. I'm going to post about it. Or, oh, that happened. I'm going to make a video. And some people would ask me, like, oh, what's your strategy? Who's managing your social? I was like, me. I am doing it. It's all me. There's nobody else. I used to hire companies to run my school's social media, but now it's just like, yeah, it's just me. I'm the one doing it. And they're like, "What? Your social media calendar must be so full." I was like, "I have no social media calendar. Everything happens in the moment, very organic." And so I think that's why I feel like things are very haphazard. It's not like I planned it. But you're right. I did plant seeds along the way that I was following my own curiosity about,
Yes.
but not so much that I had this vision of like, oh, I got to do this, and then this will happen. No, it was more like, oh, this is interesting. Let me try this. I'm going to read this book. I'm going to attend this seminar. I'm going to say yes to Sherry. Like these are kind of things that just happened, just very organically.
Yes. Well, thank you for saying yes to me. And this reminds me a little bit of a quote that I once read by Steve Jobs. And
Mm,
full disclaimer, I'm not a Steve, like I respect what he's created, but I'm not the biggest Steve Jobs um, fan. Just from,
mm,
person. He seems like he wasn't the nicest guy until later
right.
years in life. And as someone who works with kids, I take that stuff, acknowledging your kids quite seriously.
Yeah.
Back to the quote, Sherry. The line he gave when he gave a convocation speech, probably at MIT or Stanford, and he said, for all these young graduates, they're trying to understand what their future path will look like. And it is incredibly hard to determine the way forward. But when he looked back on his life,
Mm,
that all the dots connected, all the stars were aligned. And these disparate things that he had done, whether it was, some ad hoc course in font and
hmm.
typography, like
Yeah.
these different eclectic, animation, etc. They seem like they have nothing in common, but to your point, his curiosity and saying yes to new opportunities, they all laddered up to what he created, this whole global ecosystem of technology.
Yeah, that's so true. It's interesting that just this week I posted something about how dots connect when you look back. I was reflecting on an experience 3 years ago where I said yes to attending the first Compassionate Inquiry conference, which is where I would say my first seed was planted that led me to eventually pursuing my master's. I was doing a trauma training program with Dr. Gabor Mate, who
Oh,
is an amazing
yes,
human being, but
yes.
also my teacher. And saying yes to that conference led me to have a one-on-one session with him where I ugly cried in front of 300 people. But of course, at the time, I had no idea like what that saying yes to that conference may lead because I was in Vancouver and it was like logistically hard for me to go to. But and it was like right after the pandemic. I remember we were all wearing masks, and it was like one of those things that I just felt called to do, but I couldn't explain it.
Yes.
And and I actually don't say yes to everything. So saying yes to you was also that I just felt, oh my gosh, I love sharing. Yeah, of course. But I don't say yes to everything. But when I do, it's a full yes. You know,
Yes.
it's not a yes, but it's a yes, definitely. And so I wrote about that. I reflected about what happened 3 years ago. And now looking back, even just the last 3 years, how many things have happened because I said yes to going to that conference and how instrumental Gabor has been in my own healing, um, and all the people that I have been able to help because of that. So, yeah, it's just interesting, um, those well chosen yeses, where they can lead and how those dots can connect for you.
What a great story. And I didn't realize he was your mentor. I think very highly of Dr. Gabor Mate, so I'm awed. I'm awed. Now I want your autograph through assimilation because he really is a leader in the field. So I only know good things will come out of anyone who works with him. I think those 13 schools you're going to, those school children are very lucky to be able to hear you in an auditorium. Uh, this sounds like this is second nature to you. Like you, it's just, the final career, second career, as they say, it's your way to give back. But I'm sure it also, it's paying it forward for the next generation.
Yeah, and it's not just altruistic. Like I get a lot out of doing this work. Like just like I get a lot of just writing and sharing on social media. It's very healing
Yes.
to share. It's very healing to write. Even writing my book, it was one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life, but it was also incredibly, incredibly healing. So I do know that there is a lot of power in words and in storytelling and in sharing with youth is especially important because of the impact, the ripple effect that it could have. So it makes me so happy. I don't feel like it's work. I just feel like this is what I am meant to do. This is what I'm put on earth to do.
Yeah.
It's so amazing that I get to do that. So yeah, it's not just like, oh, you're doing such great work. No, I'm getting a lot out of being there.
Yeah. I feel the same way. I've confessed blatantly on LinkedIn how I was gonna fold in what's it? Fold in the towel, throw in the towel.
Throw in the towel.
Yes, I
Mhm.
get my metaphors mixed up all the time. I was gonna throw in the towel. You mentioned COVID. Those were really tough years, and
Yeah.
we barely made. Well, we didn't really make. We actually did not really make it through because I literally sold all the equipment and shut down everything. The website was still paid for, the hosting. So it was still up technically, but nothing else was operational. But it was only because we kept on getting repeat emails from principals, teachers, and parents. And honestly, if it wasn't for them, I would not have come back because I was looking at like who might want this shell of a company. It had been a fun, you know, fast-paced little company prior to COVID. And I kind of fell back in love with the company when I was reassessing a buyer for it, if I had
Mm,
a buyer. And I actually feel, I'm going to sound a bit spiritual now, but I actually feel like this was my calling, and I
mm,
was told to come back and do this. I
right.
genuinely believe that now because it does have some lows.
Oh yeah.
It's not all 2 months of work and 10 months of jolly good times. And in summer camp, like you're on. Any parent that survives Zoom school knows how hard it is to have to Zoom school their own child. Now imagine having, like, as you know, imagine having dozens of children
Yeah.
at multiple locations. It just amplifies the importance of what we do, but also the weight that we carry for those weeks of summer or after school or holiday camps. So thank you for sharing your story. Are you willing to share anything about the book that you are about to publish?
Yeah,
When
I
do I get
can,
when do I get my copy,
definitely.
Yolanda?
Oh my gosh, I would love it. I'd love for you to come to my book launch.
Yes.
Yeah, I love to share a little bit about the book. So the book is called Dear Younger Me, and it is part memoir, part parenting guide, and part time travel conversations.
I love it already.
So the book is in three parts, and
Yeah,
the first part, I chose 10 of the most difficult moments in my life that really made me who I am today.
yeah.
And so I time travel to those moments and I pour my love, wisdom, compassion into my younger self. And so that's why it's called Dear Younger Me. And then part two of the book is I wrote 10 letters to my daughter into the future where in situations she might find herself in. So one of them is if she ever felt lost in love.
Mm.
And I had gone through a really hard time in my own marriage. And so for that chapter, I actually interviewed my husband and our couples therapist of 10 plus years. So every chapter, I pull in experts in my network to pour wisdom into my daughter, into the future. But of course, it's not just for my daughter, even though the letter is directed to my daughter, but it's for anyone who is going through those tough moments. And then the third part of the book is a therapeutic practice that I call the Dear Younger Me practice, where I teach readers how to access their own future wisdom the way that I did in the first two parts of the book, and it's a mindfulness meditative practice that I walk them through. So that's the book.
Yolanda, that is the most fascinating setup and content that I've ever heard of. And I've read a few books in my lifetime. That sounds totally unique and innovative. I have to ask what inspired you to have three sections? Like, even one of the sections sounds innovative, but you did that three times over.
So I think what made me do it in these three parts is when, and this book came to me also very haphazardly. I never thought about becoming an author, but the publisher said she would like to work with me as an author. I was like, really? I don't even know if I'm a writer. So that happened very organically. And so when I was writing it, she said, I think your story would make a great book. And I thought, but who would read a story just about me? I'm not like a celebrity. I'm like a nobody. So then I thought, well, let me just figure out a way to write the story so that it's more interesting and it's not about me. Like, yes, part of it is about me, but I want readers to get a lot of, life lessons and help. It's not just about my story. And funny that one of my beta readers or one of my early readers, before I submitted my manuscript to the publisher, she said, why did you choose to do it this way? I want to hear more about your story. Why didn't you write it in like a traditional memoir where it's just like beginning to end? And I said, actually, a lot of BIPOC writers, and even in communities, BIPOC communities, storytelling is not done chronologically. Like the way my grandmother would tell me stories, they jump all over the place.
That's like
Like,
me. That's me.
yeah, it's like exactly like that's how my brain works too. So I
Ugh.
said, right? So I said, actually, the way you see memoirs written chronologically, it's a very Western phenomenon, and a lot of cultures are adapting to that. So actually, the traditional way of like storytelling doesn't have to be linear. I mean, I only really found that out from my writing coach, who said, don't change your format. This is actually quite consistent with how the BIPOC community passes stories from generation to generation. So it's very authentic. You don't need to change the way you tell stories just because that's what the Western society expects. So yeah, so that's what happened.
Wow. So I have learned a lot from chatting with you. I cannot wait to come to your, I'm sure you'll have more than one book reading, but this sounds so exciting. I'm really proud of you. You've accomplished the bucket list many times over, and I can tell it's time to go. It's time for it's time for the dog, your dog to
She's very very observant of her schedules. She connects with her body much better than I can. She's like, I need to move. I don't care what's happening around me. I need to move.
I wait till she gets to middle age and those hormones kick in. I hear you. Thank you to you and to your patient dog. I have loved chatting with you. And next time we do this, it's going to be in person because there's so much
Yes,
more I want to ask you. This has been a riveting conversation.
I would love that. I can't believe it's taken us years to schedule an in-person meeting, but I'm so glad that I took several phone calls and this interview, but we're gonna definitely meet in person soon.
Okay, girlfriend. Congratulations. And I wish you only the best in the immediate future because I know I'll see you in the near future.
Thank you so much, Sherry.